Let's get this party started. Welcome to the 2020 District Training Assembly via Zoom, remote, a whole new world for us. I'm so happy to attend. We currently have 127 people online, and we are so looking forward to today and tomorrow and doing some effective training for all our Rotarians in District 6970. So please mute your line whenever you're not speaking. Use the chat function if you'd like. Let's jump into it. I'd like to ask District Governor nominee Rich Cooper to lead us in the invocation.
Thank you, Rich. Give me one moment, folks. Okay, if we'll bow our heads, please. As we gather here today as Rotarians, let us pause for reflection and thanks. That we gather here today during unprecedented challenges put before us, through the spirit of Rotary, we still find a way to gather and recognize opportunities of service that come with these challenging times. As Rotarians, we find strength in each other, and though we are presented with obstacles that force us to be apart, it is our spirit and solidarity as Rotarians that make us now closer than we've ever been. Let us continue to strive to make a better world. Amen. That was it, Rich.
Yes, sir. We're waiting on Marie. We're moving along very smoothly here.
Whoops. Uh-oh. I guess are we doing the Pledge of Allegiance?
We are going to do God Bless America.
Okay.
I can try.
I got it.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above, from the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with fog. God bless America, my home sweet home. God bless America, my home sweet home.
Hold on. You're up.
Who do you want to look at?
Unmute.
Just give us a minute while we pull up our next video. I wanted to share something that I thought was appropriate for these times. Please, there is one cuss word. Please forgive me, but otherwise, what I find a pretty inspiring message from the poet.
1 minute. I already brought it up. Why do I have too many screens open? Why don't you do it, Rich?
There it is.
Huh?
Never mind.
Thank you.
I've got it if you want.
So, the following are true stories. May 26, 2003, Aaron Ralston was hiking. A boulder fell on his right hand. He waited 4 days. Then he amputated his own arm with a pocket knife. On New Year's Eve, a woman who was bungee jumping in Zimbabwe, the cord broke. She then fell into a river and had to swim back to land in crocodile-infested waters with a broken collarbone. Claire Champlin was smashed in the face by a 5-pound watermelon being propelled by a slingshot. Matthew Brobus was hit by a javelin. David Striegel was punched in the mouth by a kangaroo. The most amazing part of these stories is when asked about the experience, they all smiled, shrugged, and said, I guess things could have been worse. So go ahead. Tell me that you're having a bad day. Tell me about the traffic. Tell me about your boss. Tell me about the job you've been trying to quit for the past 4 years. Tell me the morning is a townhouse burning to the ground. Tell me the snooze button is a fire extinguisher. Tell me the alarm clock stole the keys to your smile, drove it into 7 a.m. and the crash totaled your happiness. Tell me how blessed are we to have tragedy so small it can fit on the tips of our tongues. You see, when Evan lost his legs, he was speechless. When my cousin was assaulted, she didn't speak for 48 hours. When my uncle was murdered, we had to send out a search party to find my father's voice. Most people have no idea that tragedy and silence have the exact same address. When your day is a museum of disappointments hanging from events that were outside of your control. When you find yourself flailing in an ocean of why is this happening to me? When it feels like your guardian angel put in his 2-week notice 2 months ago and just decided not to tell you. When it feels like God is a babysitter that's always on the phone. When you get punched in the esophagus by a fistful of life, remember that every year 2 million people die of dehydration. So it doesn't matter if the glass is half full or half empty. There's water in the cup. Drink that shit and stop complaining. You see, muscle is created by repeatedly lifting things that have been designed to weigh us down. Shoulders feel heavy. Stand up straight. Lift your chin. Hell, call it exercise. Remember that life is a gym membership with a really complicated cancellation policy. Remember that you will survive. Remember, things could be worse. Remember, we are never, ever given anything that we can't handle. When the world crumbles around you, you have to look at the wreckage and then build a new one out of all the pieces that are still here. Remember, you are still here. The human heart beats approximately 4,000 times per hour, and each pulse, each throb, each palpitation is a trophy engraved with the words, you are still alive. You are still alive. Act like it.
Okay. Marie, we can.
I'm working on stopping
got
the
it.
share.
Okay, so that's Rudy Francisco. Given all that's going on in the world today, it always can be worse, right? So I just want to give a quick update on district conference. Obviously, it was scheduled for tonight and tomorrow. We are tentatively planning tying in a celebration of 2019-20 6097 accomplishments during August when we had holding our 3 keys to success. So August, I believe I'll get to those dates, but August 22nd is tentatively scheduled. We hope to have an award ceremony with Mike Dara leading the charge for that portion of the event. Again, it's tentative based on what we are able to do in terms of gathering. If we need to push it back into October, we do that as well. Just check, we'll try and keep everybody updated. Just wanted to briefly touch upon International Assembly, where I attended back in January in San Diego. The last year it's going to be held in San Diego for District Governor-elect training. Had a wonderful event, week-long meetings and training, culminating in Holger Knax, who is our Rotary International President-elect, presenting his theme, which is Rotary Opens Opportunities. And he touched at length in his presentation of that, why he was drawn to that and the linkage it has to the current Rotary theme. And so he had 4 major points I just wanted to touch on real quick. as his emphasis for his year. And he emphasized that Rotary creates pathways for members to improve their lives and the lives of those that they help through service projects. Everything we do opens another opportunity for someone, somewhere, he said. He wants clubs to focus on keeping current members engaged and adding new members who are right fit for their club. But he believes in organic growth. He's not a numbers guy, and he refuses to set a number, quota, or target, because in the past, it's never been reached whenever we try and do that. So he's a quality over quantity person. Really have had a chance to speak one-on-one with Holger several times, and just think he's going to be an amazing president for us. He encourages clubs to have a strategic plan meeting at least once a year. Holger wants more women in leadership roles and increase Rotaractors and get them to play an integral role in how new clubs are formed and how we run them. And finally, he said he stresses the need for Rotary members to embrace change, and you can kind of see how prescient he was back in January, now that we are having so many Zoom meetings and virtual meetings, as opposed to what we used to maybe just even 4 or 6 months ago. So that is something that we really look forward to, and new and different ways to run Rotary in the coming year. With that, I'd like to turn it over to District Governor nominee designate Jeff Michaelman, who is going to give us a Polio Plus update. Jeff, you're muted. There you go.
There were a few people in the other meetings, and I've asked them, the ones in 3, to exit out and come to this link. This is Star.
And you guys can see my slides?
Yes.
Okay, well, we have had some frustration over the last year in terms of transitioning to the end, and it's become more frustrating under COVID. So as of April 14th, 2020, the virus has suspended vaccination campaigns across the world. With developing nations now engaged in shutdowns and focused on social distancing, vaccinations become very difficult. People are unprotected through vaccine. Diseases that once were eradicated all of a sudden become significant. Highest profile vaccination effort to suffer could be polio, because we are at the final throes of our 40-year battle. And what I do want to remind everybody about is that although we are suspending vaccination of polio right now, the resources that we have been deployed worldwide to help with COVID-19. We have a better network for vaccinating people around the world than any other organization, and we should all be proud of that as Rotarians. Now, I've been making this presentation for the last couple of years, and we've been concerned that polio workers in Pakistan have been taking their life in their hands. In 1998, an anti-vaccine movement started, and I'm particularly concerned about this now as we look at COVID, because some people believe that all vaccines are bad. And worldwide, the number of cases increased by about 50% last year. Now that's viral illnesses, and that's pre-COVID. So once we get the COVID numbers in, it's going to be even more important that we realize the importance of vaccination globally. Last year, there were 176 cases of wild polio, whereas there have already been 42 this year. Last year, Pakistan had 147 of those cases. They've already had 39 this year. So you can see we still have problems in Afghanistan, but our problem is in Pakistan. And right now, with the focus on COVID, we are concerned what will be the state of affairs when we move back. As you can see, this is the statistics from last week, and this is just a breakdown. We have problems in Pakistan and Afghanistan. I want to take a break for just a minute here to share with you a video from RI. Let's see, I've got to share it.
This is a story of historic progress, a story that doesn't exist without you. Our unifying effort in 3 decades of action demonstrates our commitment and endurance. And our progress thus far shows that a polio-free world is achievable. Individuals, clubs, partners, and governments share a collective vision to improve the health of every single child. We've eliminated polio in some of the most difficult places, overcoming obstacles and navigating complex issues. Our successes prove that polio will be eradicated, and while ending a global disease is not easy, as Rotary, we don't give up. We'll continue our fight until each child is protected. This isn't possible without you. So stay involved, keep pushing forward, engage your clubs and communities, start a social media conversation, and increase visibility on the importance of this global effort. Hold events and fundraisers on World Polio Day and throughout the year. Advocate to governments about the importance of supporting polio eradication. Make a contribution and invest in one of the largest health initiatives ever. Be a character in our story. Be the solution to our challenge. It's because of each and every one of you that we will improve our future by making polio a disease of the past. Eradication is possible. So let's keep our promise.
There is an opportunity to take a course through the World Health Organization on polio. I have signed up for it, but I haven't had a chance to do it yet. If you want to learn more about polio, this is a wonderful opportunity. I've talked to a couple of people that have completed it. If you want to get this link, just shoot me an email and I'm happy to give you the link. Riding in the bike ride to end polio in 2017 was the second best day of my life. Many of you have heard me say this. Clearly, the day I got married was the first best day of my life. What I want each of you to think about, when is the day that you're going to realize that Rotary is much bigger than each of us? And as you do that, think about World Polio Day on Saturday, October 24th. And Jeanette and her team will be talking to you about that as we get into year 2020, 2021. Thanks, Rich.
Thank you, Jeff. At this time, I'd like to ask Art to talk to us about some updates in the grant program and maybe, if he's ready, something about COVID in our district. Art, have any thoughts on those two subjects, please?
Morning, everybody. Afternoon, everybody. So Rich just asked me to give you a quick update on COVID. As I'm sure you're all painfully aware, 28,000 cases in the state with about 860 deaths to date. Our district and the counties that encompass our district, 3,265 cases, 59 deaths. So the question, what can we do? If you watch the news, you're painfully aware of where the shortcomings and the things that are being exposed in our society currently are, whether that's the lines you're seeing at the various community food banks, or the churches, or the need for protective gear for our medical personnel. There's lots of opportunity to serve and to help. This year, and you'll hear a little bit more about it in times to come, but all your club presidents were made aware that the district grant cycle for this coming year is currently open, and you can ask for some COVID funds, and we can actually spend them before we have them. This is the first time this has ever happened with the Rotary Foundation. There are some rules and regulations. Please do not go out and start dropping cash and then send me the receipt right now. There still is a process. Your club president got a document that outlined that process. Please make sure you take a look at it and let's help where we can. The maximum ask by any given club is a $2,000 grant. We will not have enough money for all 63 of our clubs to do a $2,000 grant. Clubs that partner on those, and that's not me doing that, so I have no idea what's going on with the screen share. Clubs that share their grant funds, you can add $1,000 from other clubs that are not going to lead their own club, but you get one or the other. You can't do a $2,000 grant and then try and leverage your money for another $1,000 with it partnering with another club. Any questions, you reach out to myself, you reach out to Jeanette, and we'll give you all the information that you need. Thanks, Rich, that's it.
Unmute.
Thanks, Art. We have, at this time we have an update. Actually, we wanted to talk about, emphasize at the training assembly, global grant. And we don't do as many as some districts do, and thought it might be time to try and learn more about them in the hopes that we can do some additional global grants. So Bill Hamilton from the St. Augustine Rotary Club. Sunrise, sorry.
Okay, for those of you I've not had the pleasure to meet, my name is Bill Hamilton. I'm the past president and a charter member of the St. Augustine Sunrise Rotary. And from the beginning, our club has had an interest in international projects, the international part of Rotary. And we have written humanitarian grants, matching grants, global grants with Costa Rica and Colombia and Haiti and Mexico over the years. We are in the process of writing another global grant, and we would invite any of the clubs in the district that have an interest in learning the process of a global grant to partner with us in this. You don't have to give us much money, but some contribution, and your name would be included in the global grant. You would then be able to follow the process through the Rotary Foundation, through the partnership arrangements that we make with our partnering club in Chihuahua, Mexico, and you would get to know, you would build a bridge with a community of people that in all likelihood you would never have a chance to get to know. One of the things that Rotary has learned over the years, writing humanitarian grants and global grants, is that it's beneficial to loop in other organizations and people that have particular expertise in the process or in the project focus that your grant addresses. So we've learned from that, and we are looping in a partner NGO, which I'm going to introduce in just a minute. Our global grant focuses on establishing a seed grow out project and a seed distribution project for a community of people that live in the Copper Canyons of northern Mexico. They're an indigenous people. They've lived and supported themselves growing traditional foods for thousands of years, and they're a community of survivors. We, at this point in our history, can learn something from them about that. They are facing challenges now in the modern world that they've never had to face before. And so Rotary's role will be to help them address drug trafficking and cartels and illegal timber industry and climate change in an extended period of drought. The community of people are the Tarahumara Indians, and they, as you may know, are the world's strongest runners. Their small races start out at 50 miles, and then the real races are either 100 or 200 miles. They run barefoot and kick a wooden ball, or they wear homemade sandals, huaraches, made from used tires. And they run all the rest of the runners into the dirt. I mean, these guys are truly an amazing community of people. Our partner in our global grant is the CEO and president of Barefoot Seeds, Will Harlan. He is a international running superstar in his own right. He's an editor and a writer. He has a long history of participation with the Tarahumara, and he's one of the few non-indigenous people in the world that can hang with these guys in a race. They call him El Chivo, the goat. So it's at this point in the presentation, my presentation, that if we were in a regular setting and I was standing at the podium, I would say to you, please join me in welcoming Will Harlan, our NGO partner in our global grant.
Thanks. Thanks so much, Bill. I used to be a great trail runner. Now I'm just a boring dad, but back in the day, I ran with the Tarahumara, and I want to first of all thank Bill, who just gave my whole presentation for me, so I can just step away right now, but I'll show you some pictures anyway so you can see what the Tarahumara are all about. Also want to thank our whole Rotary team, especially Carolyn Mudgett, Art, Kevin Van Dyke, Jeff Zeitner. Their guidance has been instrumental, and I really appreciate all of their help. And I want to thank all of you for being here today. It's a tough time, and for you to carve out this time to listen to me talk for a few minutes about some Indians in Mexico means a lot. So why should you care about an Indian tribe in Mexico? Well, let me tell you why, and I'm going to try to share my screen here so that you can all see what they're all about. One moment. Can you see that yet?
Not yet.
No luck. Here we go.
There we go.
Okay, so the Tarahumara, as Bill mentioned, run in homemade araches, sandals that they make with goat leather and use tire tread. Why should you care about these people? They are the realest and best people I have ever met. And their cultural roots are as deep as the canyons that they've lived in for millennia. So I first met the Tarahumara 15 years ago. They live in Mexico's Copper Canyons, which are 4 giant Grand Canyons kind of smashed together in northwest Mexico. And as Bill mentioned, they are some of the world's most phenomenal endurance athletes. They run 100, 200-mile races, and they have defeated the world's most highly trained elite athletes wearing just those handmade sandals. And they don't have Gatorade or gels. They run with a sack of essentially cornmeal. I've been fortunate to run alongside some of them and work in these incredible canyons. They scratch a living out of barren, rocky soil that, you know, on the steep sides of these canyons, they've been growing ancient varieties of corn and beans. And that's pretty much what they subside on, are corn and beans and a few other fruits and vegetables. Now, women trek dozens of miles carrying firewood and food and often kids on their backs. 3-year-old children run barefoot through the canyons. The men plow fields with oxen and hand tools. They don't have cars. They travel everywhere on foot. And so when I first went down there, I wanted to know what was their secret. Why and how could they run so far and for so long? And the secret is there is no secret. They simply work harder than any other people on earth. They travel everywhere on foot, and they have built themselves to be some of the toughest people on the planet. As Bill said, they are survivors. Unfortunately, in the past decade, industrial logging and mining have devastated their communities. Climate change and drought have eroded their farms and food. Drug mafias have become coming into the lawless canyons and growing marijuana and poppies, and the Tarahumara lands have been stolen. The Tarahumara leaders have been forced into indentured servitude, killed, or disappeared. But despite the dangers, over 50,000 Tarahumara remain in the canyons, and the connection to their land is a fundamental part of who they are. So on my first trip to the canyons, I met a community leader named Santiago and his 10-year-old son, Valentin. And we hiked for 2 days down the canyon and then back up the other rim. And I could barely keep up with this 10-year-old boy. So here's Valentin right here. I could barely keep up with him. And I was a pretty well-trained athlete at the time. And finally, at the end of the day, I asked Valentin, you know, what makes a Tarahumara a Tarahumara? What are the qualities? And he said that there were 4 things. 1, a Tarahumara grows corn. 2, they speak the native language. And 3, they run, because running is worship. Running is a form of prayer to the Tarahumara. And then I said, well, what's the 4th? And he said, Korima. And I wasn't sure if I heard him correctly, but Korima looks like karma and means something very similar too. Korima is the Tarahumara version of karma. It's even better though. It means selfless giving. It's giving without any expectation of reward or return, and it lies at the heart of Tarahumara culture. And I first experienced what Korima really meant on my next trip to the canyons when I got horribly lost. I nearly stumbled off a 500-foot cliff. I wandered for 2 days without food, drank giardia-infested water, and finally stumbled upon this Tarahumara hut deep in the canyons and mumbled some broken Spanish. I said, perdido gringo, lost white dude. And this Tarahumara family, who had never met this white stranger that shows up at their hut, climbs their grapefruit trees to make grapefruit juice, feeds me the last of their corn and beans to make tortillas. And basically, they had nothing, and they gave me everything I had. And that day, the Tarahumara saved my life. So at the very least, I could give something back to them. And so for the past 12 years, I've been working to create this nonprofit, Barefoot Seeds, where we grow, we help the Tarahumara build seed banks, essentially. And more importantly, we build relationships with the Tarahumara and help the Tarahumara build relationships with others. We listen to the communities and the leaders. We ask what they need and what they value. And in fact, for the first few years, that's all we did, was listen and learn. And 3 clear priorities emerged: seeds, water, and schools. And so for our first Rotary grant, our first Rotary Global grant, we worked to create seed banks in the canyons where they would grow out indigenous varieties of seeds that could withstand the drought and were adapted to these harsh conditions in the canyons. And those seed banks are still in operation today. They're feeding thousands of Tarahumara. We also installed clean water and irrigation systems for those fields and those communities. We also learned some hard lessons too from that Rotary grant, from that first grant. Our seed banks were too far from the community centers, which made access an issue, and we didn't train enough of the local leaders to manage the seed banks, and relied too much on our own outside organizational needs. So what we hope to do with this second Rotary Global grant is reach even more communities and add that 3rd priority that they mentioned, which was schools. So we're going to integrate water, seeds, and schools in this second Rotary Global grant. Here's one of our water irrigation systems. But what we're doing with this second Rotary grant is adding that school component through a program called Seeds to Schools. And what that does is build clean water and storage projects and native seed banks right at the rural indigenous schools. So students, teachers, and communities benefit. The seed banks provide ample nutrition for the students. It provides food and even income for the communities, and also provides learning opportunities for the students at the schools. And so we've done one pilot project. Here's some of the students already at work. And we found that the pilot project showed that Seeds to Schools was correlated with an increase in school attendance, especially by young girls, and higher overall educational outcomes after just 1 year. And retention rates for both students and teachers was significantly higher. this is the kind of terrain that we're working with. You can see those incredibly steep slopes become filled with corn after just a few months. And this is all the work of local Tarahumara people, communities, even students chipping in next to their rural schools. And so it's really exciting to see schools flourishing deep in the canyons, and also exciting, in addition to seeing these filled seed banks and food that will sustain them through the winter, is the return of these traditional ceremonies. As Bill mentioned, they don't just run races, they make it even harder. They run races by kicking a wooden ball for 100 miles. It's a team sport, running is for the Tarahumara. And so they run 50, 100, 200 miles kicking this wooden ball. And what's happened is these ceremonies have returned, and they're essential to their culture, because that's how they distribute seed and reconnect with each other. So we've seen the return of these ancient running ceremonies once we built these seed banks at these rural schools. So distributing the seed bank surplus is kind of at the heart of that culture, and again reinforces the Koroma circle. Now, I don't want to romanticize the Tarahumara. They are real people with real problems. Drug mafias prowl their canyons. Tarahumara leaders are being slaughtered. Crops, food shortages, widespread hunger. It's very real. And many Tarahumara are leaving the canyons to beg on city streets. And yet, the culture endures, and though frayed at the margin, still remains relatively intact. And more than anything, they simply want to keep living in their ancestral canyons. And water, seeds, and schools working together can ensure that they can stay and keep a foothold in their ancestral homelands. So it's been especially difficult for me to reconcile what just happened a couple of years ago. So you remember my 10-year-old Valentine, my guide through the canyons on my first trip to the Tarahumara homelands. He slipped from the edge of a cliff and died. And all I could ask, and all that I still ask, is why him and not me? You know, why a hungry little boy and not a greedy grown man? He was the sure-footed Tarahumara, and I was the Perdido Gringo. And I still don't have an answer to that question, but I do know this, that Valentine and his people showed me the way home, and they continue to share with me more than I ever will give to them. And they've filled my life with Koroma. And similarly, all of you here today are ambassadors and practitioners of Koroma, whether you know it or not. You selflessly serve others and give without any expectation of return or reward or even thank you. And you give, and I've learned from working with Bill and the Rotary folks that you give because it's the best thing that you can do in this life. And I think the Tarahumara can definitely relate to that. So I just hope you will consider supporting the Seeds to Schools project and help keep these Tarahumara on their feet in their ancestral homeland. Thank you so much for giving me your time today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Will.
Rich, I think you're back up. Unmute.
I know, but my dogs are barking. I think we have some time for questions. One thing I wanted to ask Will, you mentioned a lot of the foods they eat. I didn't hear anything about protein, besides plant protein, I guess. Is there meat on their menu, so to speak?
There really isn't. They will eat meat when they can get it, but they use most animals for, they use some oxen to pull their plows, but really they get most of their protein through a mix of corn and beans. They use an ancient practice of mixing ash in with their with their corn to enhance the calcium intake or uptake from the corn, and then beans, plant-based protein. And it may sound deficient by our standards, but they are some of the healthiest people on the planet. Harvard physiologists have studied them and found that their diet is not lacking in any essential nutrients, and they outlive many of us on their very simple diet and their healthy lifestyle of just walking and running everywhere. So they have a lot to teach us about how to live a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah, it's really interesting because and when my trainer always emphasized, getting some protein, especially after a workout, how important it is for rebuilding your muscles and all that. So it's pretty interesting from that standpoint. We do have other questions, opportunities for questions. Art, you're raising your hand.
Yeah, Rich, I just want to add, any of our clubs that want to participate in this project, you don't want to go through the process of doing an entire global grant application. You want to get involved so that you can do it in the future. Send a note to Bill Hamilton or the St. Augustine Sunrise Club. Carolyn Mudgett can get it there as well. And they'll add you to that grant application. And you can participate in an international project for $100. Obviously, this is a big project. We'd love to see more. But if your club's got $1,000 set aside for an international project this year, be awesome. Let them know. That's how these things grow. We've got, I would be remiss as the foundation chair if I didn't mention, we've got a lot of global grants in process. And if you'd like more information, you want to partner on a water project or a food project, a medical mission, whatever the case may be, those opportunities exist. But for this one, and obviously, Will did a great job, and he's been there a long time. You saw a couple of chats. There's a documentary on Amazon Prime. I think it is El Chivo, right, Will? Is the documentary. And there's also a book, Born to Run. If you want to learn more about Will's experiences with the native Indians in that section of Mexico, that's where to do it. And you'll see what's going on. So, but get a hold of Bill Hamilton or Carolyn Mudgett if you want to be a partner in a global grant, and help them out. There's been, I can't tell you, this has probably been in formation for 6 or 7 months now that they've been putting pen to paper in draft format. It's not been submitted yet, so it's not too late. And we never know what's going to happen until a grant is submitted. But there's been a lot of work going to this, and it's looking pretty dang awesome and pretty big. As Will said, we did this once before. It's probably been about 6 years ago. Learned a few lessons there. One in particular was pick your partner club very carefully. And Bill's done a little bit, as Will. I see Will laughing right now. They've done a little more research on that aspect right now. We think we've got this one nailed down pretty tight. So please help. Thanks, Rich.
I just wanted to say that the original global grant that we wrote, the Rotary Foundation really liked that program a lot, because what they saw was that it was transferable to other parts of the world. Any part of the world where there was a traditional community that had lived using traditional seeds, what that global grant put together, a seed bank program, could be transferred there. And they called us, they contacted us, and the Rotary Foundation said, we want to send a video team down there and show exactly what you all are doing and show the Tarahumara and the success of this program. And it was right when the drug cartels had taken over some of the towns and closed the roads. So I told the foundation, I'm not going down there. And Will and his people, they all left the canyons, and the Rotary Foundation backed off from that. But they really liked this program a lot. We've held off submitting the grant until we were able to present this to the clubs in the district, giving them a chance to partner and learn what it's like to go through a global grant process and build a bridge to another community somewhere in the world, to people that in all likelihood that you would never get to know otherwise. So it's a fantastic part of Rotary. The Korma theme is parallel to Rotary's service above self. So I really appreciate Will and the effort that he has made, and Carolyn is the person who's taken on all the paperwork and putting the grant together, and with Art's leadership. And so this is a great program. We would love to have you all be a part of it. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. I can't see everybody's hand, but if you have a question, please unmute and fire away. Anybody?
Rich, this is Jeanette. There are some questions in the chat box. The first one came from, I think, Vincent Lyon, Rotary Club of Flagler County. Have they stated what they want the schools to teach? Their expectations of a school and hours may not be the same.
Yes, and we're certainly open to input from Rotary. We can guide the curriculum however you all think is best, but really we're just trying to get the kids to attend the school first of all, because the schools are located deep in the canyons, and one of the most important things that we are emphasizing is that they learn the native language. As Valentin mentioned, that's one of the essential pillars of their culture. In the past, the Mexican government has taken the Tarahumara language out of schools, and we want to make sure that it is back in the schools. Beyond that, the curriculum is wide open. We just want to give the students the opportunity to learn, because a lot of the schools simply don't function. The teachers don't show up because there's no food, there's no toilets, there's no water. And at this point, it's just getting students to the schools and making sure that they're healthy while they're there.
Obviously, part of the curriculum would be how to grow your own food. And personally, my business is as a horticulturist. I have a retail garden center and a landscape contracting company, and we have seen a huge resurgence of interest in people growing their own food, growing gardens. I mean, as people are staying home with their kids, tons and tons of people are learning to grow their own gardens here in the United States. The Tarahumara, obviously, teaching their kids how to continue the traditions of planting corn and beans, that would be part of what they would get taught. So just wanted to add that.
Rich, I'm going to add one thing to what Bill just said, and Will as well. As you all know, when you do a global grant, you have to select one of the areas of focus. That area of focus is the area that you have to do a great deal of reporting on. If you select more than one area of focus, you have to do a great deal of reporting on each and every one of them. The area of focus on this one will be maternal and child health. It will be those food, the emphasis on supplying food. Water and education are also in the grant, but they will not be listed as areas of focus because of the reporting requirements. You could say that's a hole in the global grant system, and it's arguable you're correct, but the goal is the seeds, and that will lead them to sustain themselves as a native people and to do these other things at the same time.
Okay, thanks, Art. And there was one more question, and I think that's to you as well, and kind of related from me. Can a club support more than one global grant? And what is the amount to partner with Bill's club? And I guess what the match is, you know, if a club gives $100, what does it end up meaning?
So if a club gives $100, it'll be matched by the Rotary World Fund, 50 cents on the dollar. The Rotary, our district will be contributing district designated funds. Those are matched dollar for dollar. Yes, a club can contribute to as many global grants as they want. They can actually have, as the lead club, more than one global grant going on. I think the number has been changed, so I'll not share it right now, but I think it's 5. And there are caps on the number of global grants that a district or a club can do, but we haven't had that problem. So we're not going to worry about that right now. But yeah, you can contribute to as many global grants as your club has funds for, and we would encourage you to do so. That gives you visibility of what's going on in a given grant. And that's what's awesome. You can see the writing that went into this, the construct of how you put together a global grant, what the goals are. All the stories that Will just gave boiled down into words as succinctly as possible. And you guys have heard me say this often, no lawyers, no engineers, just heart. This is heart stuff. Who's going to do this? What's it going to do for them? How's it going to impact them? And of course, we've got to get into the specifics, but when the foundation finds a hole in the application, they'll send us back a question. And then the team that Will and Bill have both mentioned will get together, formulate those answers and how those things are going to be solved in order to fill out the needs of those, answer those questions.
I think you should also mention that a key to any successful global grant is a need as defined by the community. So like Will said, he spent years down there talking to them, asking them, what is it that you need? What are the challenges that the modern world has presented with you that you're not able to solve traditionally, that you solved over the past centuries? So that this global grant is a response to their request to us as Rotarians to help them to maintain their sustainable societies.
Okay, I can't thank you guys enough, Bill and Carolyn, for bringing Will to us, and Will for taking time out of your day. It's not as nice as coming down in person to St. Augustine, but we definitely appreciate you, and hopefully you have a very successful grant undertaking there. We'd like to move on. Marie is going to tell us a little bit about our drawings that we have. We have a raffle drawing.
Yes, we do. So we decided we would make this a little fun and do some raffle drawings. At the end of the session, I should be able to get a list of everyone who was here. And not exactly sure how this list looks like, but if it looks like iPhone, Mary, Can Do, and Mike, I'm never going to be able to figure out who you are. So maybe if you're using a screen name that's generic, please send me an email and tell me what it is so I can make sure I've included you in this raffle. So we had 186 people. Thank you very much for showing up for the plenary session. So I have a random number generator that I found on the internet. So I put 1 through 186 in it, and I'm just gonna hit generate for 4 numbers. We have 4 prizes for a plenary session. It is a $25 gift certificate to your favorite restaurant, local restaurant in your area. We're trying to support our local restaurants, and that doesn't mean just here in St. Augustine. If you're over in Gainesville, you tell us that restaurant and we will go get a gift certificate and get that to you. Really? Didn't do this yesterday. So our random numbers are 183, 133, 181, and 101. I'm going to take the list and put it in a spreadsheet, and then I'll pull these, and tomorrow, probably afternoon, I will announce the winners in one big email, and then we'll contact each one of the individual winners and see what restaurant they would like a gift certificate to.
And remember, the more you come to one of these sessions, the more chances you have to win.
There you go. Okay, so I just want to close out a couple quick announcements looking forward on our calendars. The Rotaract Summit has been rescheduled for May 7th and May 9th. It's 2 different sessions. The 7th is at 6 p.m. and on the 10th, it's a morning session starting at 10 a.m. Look on our district webpage or contact any of our coordinators, Mike Sela, Mo, and Charlie will be able to help you as well.
What were those dates again?
Go ahead, Rosemary.
Just what were those dates again?
May 7th and May 10th.
Thank you.
You're welcome. This is District Training 1. We had to split it into 1 and 2. District Training 2 will occur in May. May 16th in the morning. We'll have 2 sessions. The first being for President-elects and President nominees for final training of the year and dealing with some financial issues, approving the budget, and those kind of things. we didn't want to send out announcements until this was done to avoid confusion. The second part of that event will be assistant governor. They'll be meeting individually with the district governor that they correspond to their final year. So look for that if you're assistant governor, president-elect, president nominee, and actually anybody's welcome, but that's who it's going to be geared for.
Hey, Rich.
Yes,
This is Mike Seela. The dates are May 7 and 9.
Yes, sir. What did I say? 10?
Not the 10th. May 7 and 9.
I'm sorry. I got confused with the time start on the night.
That's okay. It does start at 10 on the night.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
The last thing, and I touched on this earlier, Saturday, August 22nd, possibly be holding our 3 Keys to Success summer sessions and combine that with some sort of district-wide celebration for everybody that helped in the current year make it successful. So look for information on that. RLI, Jeanette, can you help me with the date on that, please?
RLI, we are looking right now and hoping to be able to be all together under one roof.
September 26th.
September 26th?
Yes, 2/6.
Okay, got it.
Okay. Anything else for the good of all, not just the good of all 188 of us?
Can I ask a question, to Mickey? Where are you guys looking at having it? RLI.
That one will be in Palm Coast, Mickey, Daytona State College in Palm Coast?
Correct, yes.
Just a bunch of people, if you see the questions, they're starting to show up where it is. So that's why I asked.
There's been some delay in their response confirming.
Okay, keep an eye on DACDB on the calendar and our district webpage for upcoming events and activities, please. I do know that Zone seminar in Jacksonville, normally held in June, has been canceled. And we usually host that each year, but it will not be happening this year. I just want to thank everybody. We had as many as 188. We're down to 186. Everybody stayed through the end. This is all new and different. We appreciate your patience as we fumble through a couple of things. We're all learning and growing, but we are all family of Rotary, and I have to tell you, it is different, and I miss all my friends and being able to give them a big hug. But I hope you guys continue to stay safe, stay smart, and know that Rotary is going to continue, and we're going to continue to do great things in this world and in our communities. So thank you for being a part of that. We are going into 3 different tracks now. So if you have any questions, you can text Marie or Carolyn about getting into those tracks, but they are on the flyer. All you have to do is do a quick link. We're going to close this session, and then you can go to your next session.
So when you look at that PDF file, your links are in blue letters on that PDF. So if you're following track A, you'll click on that link, which is designated mostly for secretaries. If you're a secretary, that's the track you want to be in. Second track B is for treasurers, and foundation is track C. And then please don't forget to join us all back together at 5 o'clock where we will have a virtual cocktail party.
Okay, thank you all, everybody. It is 2 o'clock. I'm going to end the meeting. You guys be safe.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.